Howdy doody guys, it's Mrs. McPhail. Today we're back with fractions to percents. So let's get started. Previously we've talked about putting a fraction, such as 15/100ths, into a decimal, which would be, in this case, 15/100ths, just like that, okay? We've also talked about circumstances where, let's say you don't know how to easily put that into a decimal. So we find an equivalent fraction. This is our equivalent fraction that's going to equal our new fraction with a denominator of 100, because that's the easiest thing to put it into. So 20 times 5 gets you 100. So whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. It's an equivalent fraction rule. So 7 times 5 would be 35. And that decimal would be 35/100ths, okay? We've also talked about tricky ones, a little bit tricky ones, so things like 7/10. As a decimal, we write 7/10, okay? So today we're going to work on changing these fractions all the way to percents, all right? So there's a couple ways that you can do this, and I'm going to show you how to do it with a calculator too. So kind of more of a review than anything today. I'm going to write fraction on the side over here. You can do this too in your notebook. Decimal and percent. So if we were to do, once again, the fraction 15/100ths, you know to write that as the decimal 15/100ths. And one of the ways I taught you to find percent is that you take the decimal point and you move it over 2 places. Ba-dum, to the right, ba-dum. So your percent would be 15%. Okay? The other way you can do this is you can take a calculator. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this. And we are going to type our fraction, 15 divided by 100%. So instead of hitting equal and turning it into a decimal, I hit the percent sign on your calculator at school. So once again, I'll show you how I did that. I did the fraction 15. It's like I'm turning it into a decimal, divided by 10. And instead of hitting equal, which would give me the decimal, I hit the percent sign, and it gives me, oops, sorry, that didn't work that time. 15 divided by 100% gives me the number 15. That's a whole number, and that means percent. So it takes care of the decimal point for me. Another way you could do this, if you don't have the percent sign on your calculator and you don't want to manually bring the decimal point over, you can do the fraction 15 divided by 100. That gives you the decimal. And then multiply it times 100, because percent means 100. And that gives you the whole number 15. So a couple different ways that you can do that, but let's try another one together. Let's do 7/10. So we know the decimal for that is going to look like this. All right, so if we wanted to bring our decimal point over 2 places, we have to remember that there's an imaginary 0 here, right? Because 7/10 is the same as 70/100ths. It's equivalent, okay? So that's one of the ways we could do it, and our percent would end up being 70%. Okay, notice how that looks different from our fraction, but 7 of 10 is 70%. Or we could take our calculator, and we could do the fraction 7/10. Remember, fractions are just division that hasn't been done. Instead of hitting equal, we could do the percent sign, and that gives us 70%. Or we could do the decimal, find the decimal, and then multiply it times 100 to get our answer. All right, your turn. You try this one on your own. So hopefully you came up with a decimal of 0.28 or 28 hundredths. One of the ways you could have done this was brought the decimal point over 2 places to get 28%. All right, you could have used your calculator and done 28 divided by 100 percent sign. Or you could have done the decimal way, 28 divided by 100 equals the decimal times the number 100. Right, you get 28%. Now you can go from percents to decimals pretty easily too. Let's say that you had the percents 57%. Well, you know that 57% is 57 of 100. That's what percent means. It's per 100. So your decimal or fraction, however you wanted to write it first, would be 57 over 100. And then you could write your decimal, 0.57. So you're just kind of working backwards there, okay? Another one, if you had, let's say, 60%, you would know that the fraction, wrong way, would be 60 over 100. Some of you might catch on that that's also equal to 6 over 10. And then your decimal would be 60 hundredths or 6 tenths. Sometimes you get little trickier ones. Let's say your percent is 4%. Be very careful. How would you write that in terms of over 100? Because this is per 100. You'd have to write 4 over 100. And then think about how you'd write that as a decimal. You can use your calculator to help you if you'd like. You would do 4 divided by 100, which would give you 0.04. Which would also make sense when you check your work. You're going to bring that decimal over 2 spaces to the right, 1, 2, so that would be 4%. So that's just a little review on how to do fractions to decimals to percents. It's easy to work this way, but now you know that there's a trick to working the other way as well too. Cool beans. Mr. Nutty and I say see you later.